Okay, so you guys have sent in some really interesting stuff lately. And one that we wanted to dig into more deeply is this article called Seven Common Startup Mistakes and How to Avoid Them.
Yeah, this one's great.
It's pretty fascinating. It really kind of takes a look at, those early sort of hiccups that even promising new businesses can kind of stumble over. And more importantly, I think what we're going to try and do is give you some insights into how to avoid those.
Yeah, and it's not just sort of vague advice either.
Right.
This is like very practical stuff this article is laying out.
Yeah, it is.
So what we're aiming for, I guess, with this deep dive is to give you a clear understanding of these mistakes.
Okay.
So whether you're in the thick of it, building a company, or you're just playing with the idea, or frankly, if you just find the whole startup scene fascinating,
Sure.
hopefully you come away from this feeling a bit more prepared,
Yeah.
and insightful about the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's jump right in. The first potential pitfall that they highlight in this article is skipping market research. Now, that seems like a no-brainer, right? It does.
Priceless.
You would think that everyone would want to know if there's actually a demand for what they're offering.
Sure.
And yet, the article really highlights this as like a major reason why startups just completely fail.
Yeah.
So what do you think makes it so tempting to just kind of launch into building something without really testing the waters first?
It's interesting. I think it's often the founder's own conviction.
Okay.
They have this vision. They're incredibly passionate about this idea. And the thought of stopping and doing a bunch of research can feel like, it's slowing them down. It's maybe even diluting that initial excitement.
Right.
There's a really strong belief there that if I think this is great, other people are going to think it's great too.
Right.
But, that conviction without some outside validation
Yeah.
can be a really shaky foundation to build on.
Yeah, it's like setting sail without checking the weather forecast.
Yeah.
So, they point to the solution here pretty clearly. They say validate early.
Mm-hmm.
So they're talking about things like surveys, prototype testing, competitor research. So beyond just asking people what they think, what's a really effective, like lean way that somebody could actually gauge genuine interest in their idea before they sink serious, money and time into it?
Well, I think running what are sometimes called smoke tests can be incredibly insightful at that early stage.
Okay.
So this could be as simple as, creating a landing page
Right.
that describes your product or service really clearly in detail, and then just seeing if people click a learn more or buy now button, even if that button doesn't actually lead to a real purchase yet.
Right.
It's a pretty low stakes way to measure genuine interest versus just, polite feedback.
Right.
And with competitor research, I think going beyond just listing, who else is out there, I think really analyzing those customer reviews. What are people praising? What are they complaining about? That can actually reveal some really valuable unmet needs that your idea could potentially address.
This is a really smart approach to sort of look at,
Yeah,
real behavior rather than just what people say they're going to do.
exactly.
So by taking these early validation steps, you're essentially kind of stress testing your idea
Yeah.
before you're fully invested
Mm-hmm.
and potentially saving yourself a lot of time, a lot of resources by ensuring that what you're building people actually want.
Exactly. Think of it as gathering evidence before you really commit.
Yeah.
This raises an interesting point for you, actually.
Oh.
Beyond just your own assumptions about this,
Yeah.
what concrete data do you have that suggests that there's a real need for this solution that you're proposing?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Okay, mistake number 2. Trying to be everything to everyone.
Right.
And I totally get the instinct here, right?
Yeah.
You want to capture as much of the market as possible. More people equals more potential customers, you would think.
Makes sense.
But the article really pushes back against this. They say that it actually weakens your message if you try and go too broad.
Precisely.
Yeah.
When you try to appeal to such a broad audience, everyone out there,
Right.
your message becomes so diluted, it becomes so generic that it doesn't really connect deeply with anyone.
Right.
It's like trying to speak a language that everyone understands a little bit, but nobody is actually fluent in.
Right.
So you end up resonating with no one in particular.
Yeah, that makes sense. So the advice here is to start with a niche,
Mm-hmm.
to focus on serving a very specific audience with a very clear problem that they have.
Yeah,
And it feels counterintuitive to kind of narrow your focus initially,
it does.
but I can see the logic in being more targeted.
Well, what's so strategically powerful about that approach,
Mm-hmm.
focusing on a niche,
Right.
is that you have this opportunity to really become like the recognized expert
Right.
or the go-to solution for that specific group.
Right.
Think about it. Instead of being a general store with a little bit of everything,
Right.
you become that boutique
Right.
known for specializing in exactly what a certain type of customer needs.
Right.
This allows you to build much stronger customer loyalty,
Mm-hmm.
word-of-mouth referrals. And as the article points out, once you've really nailed that niche, you can always consider expanding your offerings
Sure.
or expanding your target audience later on.
Right. So it's about finding your core tribe first.
Yeah.
The people who are really feeling the pain point
Mm-hmm.
that your product or service is addressing.
Exactly.
And then once you've built that strong base, then you have a much more solid foundation to grow from.
Exactly.
So for you listening, who is that ideal, like most specific customer you could serve incredibly well right now?
That's a good question.
Okay.
And this also ties right back into that market research we were talking
Yeah,
about.
absolutely.
Understanding your niche deeply, their specific needs, their language, where they hang out online, all that comes from that initial focused investigation.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. Mistake number 3, underestimating the power of cash flow.
Ooh, yeah.
And this one feels a little bit less about the initial, kind of spark of the idea
Yeah.
and more about the nuts and bolts of actually running a business.
The day-to-day.
Yeah. And the article makes a really stark point here. They say even profitable businesses
I know.
can fail
Yeah,
due to a lack of cash.
it's true.
That's a real wake-up call.
It is profitability on paper, showing that your revenues exceed your expenses.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily guarantee
Right.
that you have liquid cash available when you need it.
Right.
There can be lags between when you incur costs and when you receive payments from customers.
Sure.
Unexpected expenses can pop up.
Of course.
You need to have that readily available cash to cover those immediate operational needs. Salaries, rent, inventory.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's like the oxygen supply for your business. Yeah.
It is. So the advice here is pretty straightforward. They say you've got to monitor your cash flow,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're using, software tools or even simple spreadsheets,
Mm-hmm.
and to always have a plan
Right.
for those leaner periods.
Yeah.
It sounds like basic financial hygiene,
It is.
but I guess it's just easy to overlook when you're caught up in the excitement of actually building something.
It's easy to get swept up in the big picture.
Yeah.
But what's critical here is to be proactive, not reactive with your cash flow management.
Okay.
It's not enough to just glance at your bank balance every now and then.
Right.
You need a system
Okay.
for forecasting your incoming and outgoing cash over a specific period,
Mm-hmm.
let's say the next 13 weeks.
Okay.
This allows you to anticipate those potential shortfalls and take action before they become critical.
Right.
For instance, you might negotiate longer payment terms with your customers or shorter payment terms with your suppliers. This actually raises a really important question for you. How clear is your current and projected cash flow situation for, let's say, the next few months?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is something to think about. Okay, mistake number 4, ignoring branding and online presence.
Oh, yeah, big one.
In today's digital world, it almost feels self-evident,
It does.
but apparently it's still a really common misstep.
Yeah.
So the article basically says, look, if potential customers can't find you,
Mm-hmm.
or if they don't trust your online presence, they're probably not going to become customers.
It's true.
Yeah, that's pretty hard to argue with.
It is. For a lot of potential customers, your online presence is literally their very first interaction with your business.
Right,
A poorly designed website, an outdated website,
Mm-hmm.
inconsistent or inactive social media profiles, lack of clear branding.
Yeah.
All of that can create a really negative first impression and erode trust before you even get the chance to explain what you do.
Totally. So the solution that they point to is to invest in a professional-looking website and maintain an active and engaging presence on the relevant social media platforms for you.
Absolutely.
So it's not just about existing online, it's about making a positive and credible first impression.
You got it. What's so fascinating about branding
Yeah.
is that it goes way beyond just like a logo and colors.
Right.
It's the entire experience that a customer has with your business.
Yeah.
From that very first online search
Right.
to their interactions with your product or service to customer support,
Yeah.
your website, your social media. Those are crucial touch points
Mm-hmm.
in building that brand narrative.
Yeah.
They should really communicate, your values, your mission, what makes you different
Right.
in a clear and consistent way.
Mm-hmm.
Think about your own online behavior.
Yeah.
What are the elements of a website or social media profile that make you feel confident
Right.
in a business that you've just discovered?
Yeah, that's a good point. What
Yeah.
are some of those things for you?
Often it's things like, clear contact information, customer testimonials, consistent professional design, those kinds of things.
Yeah. Usually for me, it's a site that's easy to navigate,
Sure.
that provides the information that I'm looking for quickly,
Yeah.
and social media that shows that they're actively, engaging with their community,
Mhm.
providing value.
Absolutely.
It definitely builds that sense of trust and legitimacy.
It does.
So for you listening, take a moment to Google your business idea.
Mhm.
Like, what kind of impression would a potential customer actually get right now?
It's a good exercise.
Hmm.
And remember, a strong online presence isn't just about attracting new customers.
Yeah.
It's also about nurturing existing relationships and building that loyal customer base.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so mistake number 5 is not delegating or automating early enough.
Ooh, that's a big one.
Yeah, and I can really see how this is a trap that's easy to fall into,
Yeah.
especially in those really early stages when resources are so tight.
Hmm.
There's often this really strong urge to control every single aspect of the business.
Oh, yeah, I get it.
But the article cautions against this. They
Mhm.
say that ultimately it leads to founder burnout
Yeah.
and it slows down the company's progress.
Yeah, that feeling of needing to do everything yourself
Yeah,
is completely understandable.
sure.
Especially, it's your vision you're bringing to life.
Uh-huh.
However, as the business starts to gain traction,
Right.
trying to maintain that level of control,
Yeah.
it becomes a bottleneck.
Okay.
You end up spread too thin.
Yeah.
You're focusing on tasks that frankly aren't the best use of your core skills.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not able to focus on those bigger strategic priorities that will drive growth.
Right. So their advice is pretty clear here. They say identify tasks that can be outsourced, delegated to early team members, or automated using affordable tools.
Mm-hmm.
And they specifically call out the increasing power and accessibility of AI-powered solutions.
Right.
That last point feels particularly relevant right now.
It is. What's so transformative about this moment is the availability of all these automation tools.
Right.
Even for very small businesses now.
Mm-hmm.
Think about tasks like scheduling a social media post, basic email marketing.
Right.
Even some aspects of customer service can be automated these days.
Right.
This frees up the founder's time to focus on that high-level strategic thinking, product development, building those key relationships.
Yeah.
Similarly, even just bringing on part-time help or freelancers for very specific tasks
Yeah.
can be incredibly valuable.
Right.
It's about recognizing that as a founder, your time is your most precious and finite resource.
Right. So it's really about shifting from working in the business on every little detail to working on the business and focusing on those strategic levers that are really going to move the needle.
Exactly.
So for you, the listener, think about those tasks that are consistently eating up your time, but don't necessarily require your direct personal involvement.
Yeah.
Could any of those be delegated or automated?
That's a good question. And it also speaks to the importance of building a team.
Right.
Even if it's a very small team at the beginning,
Sure.
learning to delegate effectively is a crucial skill for any leader.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, mistake number 6 is overcomplicating your offer.
Yeah.
And this kind of feels related to the trying to be everything to everyone mistake.
It does.
But it focuses more on the product or service itself.
Right.
The article states this pretty directly. They say, confused customers don't buy.
It's true.
Hard to argue with that one.
Yeah. In today's marketplace, where consumers are just bombarded with choices,
Right.
and information clarity is paramount.
Yeah.
If potential customers can't very quickly and easily understand what your product or service does, what problem it solves for them, and what those benefits are,
Yeah.
they're just going to move on,
Yeah.
to a competitor whose offering is easier to grasp.
Right. So the solution offered here is to keep your core offer simple, clear,
Keep it simple.
and focused on the results it delivers
Exactly.
to the customer.
Tangible results.
Yeah, make it incredibly easy for them to understand the value proposition at a glance. This sounds like it requires a lot of discipline
It does.
to resist the urge to, add more bells and whistles or try to cater to every possible niche
Oh, yeah.
within your target audience.
What's essential here is to focus relentlessly
Okay.
on that core value proposition. What is the single most important benefit
Yeah.
that you provide to your customer? Communicate that clearly and concisely. Think about some of the most successful products and services.
Right.
Often their fundamental offering is remarkably easy to explain.
Right.
It's about delivering genuine value without unnecessary complexity or feature bloat.
So it's a case of clarity trumping complexity
Yeah,
every time,
especially.
especially in those crucial early interactions with potential customers.
Yeah.
So for you listening, try this. Can you explain what your product or service does and who it's for in one or two simple, jargon-free sentences?
I love that.
If you find that challenging,
Mm-hmm.
it might be time to simplify your messaging.
Yeah, great point. And remember, you can always iterate and add features or expand your offerings later on
Right.
based on actual customer feedback, market
Yeah.
demand.
Sure.
But starting with that crystal clear, really focused core offer makes it so much easier to gain that initial traction.
Absolutely. Okay, and finally, mistake number 7, not asking for help.
Oh, yeah.
The article suggests that a lot of entrepreneurs try to navigate these often turbulent waters of starting a business completely in isolation.
Mm.
And they end up making avoidable errors as a result.
It's true.
And I can imagine that the startup journey can feel really quite lonely at times.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a ton of pressure on founders. And there can be a real reluctance to admit when you just don't have all the answers or when you're facing challenges.
Right.
But the reality is that very few successful businesses are built entirely in isolation.
Right. So the solution they offer here is to actively seek out mentors, join relevant business communities or networks, and don't hesitate to reach out for professional support
Absolutely.
when it's needed.
Yeah.
And they really emphasize this point that you do not have to go it alone.
You don't.
This feels like particularly crucial advice.
It is. What's so valuable about seeking help is gaining access to the experience, the perspective of others who've likely faced similar hurdles.
Right.
Mentors can provide invaluable guidance based on their own entrepreneurial journeys. Business communities offer that supportive network of peers who understand the unique challenges you're facing.
Yeah.
And can provide encouragement and shared learning.
Yeah.
And professional advisors, whether in legal or financial or marketing areas, can offer specialized expertise that can save you a lot of time and costly mistakes.
Yeah.
Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength and a proactive approach to growth and learning.
Right. So it's really about tapping into that collective wisdom and support that's available within that entrepreneurial ecosystem.
Exactly.
So for you, the listener, take a moment to consider, who in your network or beyond could offer some valuable guidance or support. Don't be afraid to reach out.
Yeah. And don't underestimate just the simple act of connecting with other entrepreneurs.
Right.
Sharing your experiences and your challenges.
Yeah.
Even without seeking specific advice, can be incredibly validating.
Yeah.
And can often lead to unexpected insights or solutions.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been a really insightful deep dive
It has.
into these 7 common startup mistakes.
Yeah.
It's a powerful reminder that while that initial spark of a new business idea is so exciting,
It is.
being aware of these potential pitfalls and actively developing strategies to navigate them
Absolutely.
is absolutely crucial for long-term success.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
As the article points out, every thriving business started somewhere.
Right.
And almost all of them encountered challenges. They made mistakes along the way.
Sure.
The real key is to learn from those mistakes, adapt quickly, and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Understanding these common errors really does provide a valuable framework for navigating, the complexities of building a new venture.
So for you, the listener, take some time to reflect on which of these potential mistakes resonates most strongly with your current situation or your future aspirations. Maybe it's that need to conduct more thorough market research. Or maybe it's just, feeling completely overwhelmed and needing to delegate. Remember, understanding these common pitfalls isn't about avoiding risk altogether.
Right.
Because every new venture inherently involves risk.
It does.
But it's about making more informed strategic choices. It's about learning from the collective experiences of those who have gone before you. So you can build something truly impactful and sustainable.
Well said.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're talking all about avoiding those common mistakes new entrepreneurs make.
Right, some of those pitfalls.
Exactly. And to help us, we're using this awesome book, Entrepreneurial Pitfalls: Avoiding Common Startup Mistakes.
Avoiding common startup mistakes.
Yeah. And even if you're, not starting a business like right this second, I still think this will be super relevant for you guys listening.
Oh, absolutely. And what's so interesting is that these flaws aren't even always about like business skills necessarily.
Yeah.
It's often a lot about mindset
Totally.
and approach, right? And that's where we can like step in and hopefully help you avoid some of that.
Yeah, that's huge. Like having the right mindset from the beginning
Yeah,
can really make or break you. So
for sure.
the first pitfall the book talks about, and I've definitely been here myself, is that classic, like
Oh, yeah.
trying to do everything yourself.
I know.
So like when I first started out, I was like, oh yeah, I can handle everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like writing, editing, marketing, even the accounting,
Wow.
which quickly turned into a disaster. Like it was not pretty.
Oh, I can imagine.
So you're telling me I don't have to be a superhero?
You really don't. And that's the thing. The book is so spot on about this.
Okay.
Like it all comes down to two things. Delegation
Right.
and automation.
Automation, yeah.
So think about like
Yeah.
those tasks, those like really time-consuming tasks that you just dread.
Oh, yeah, like the things I put off to the very last minute.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Could you get like a freelancer
Oh,
to just whip through that
interesting.
in half the time?
Yeah.
Or could you use a tool like what's that one, Zapier?
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, that like connects all your apps
Oh, cool.
and automates a lot of these like
Whoa,
repetitive tasks.
that'd be amazing.
Right, and that can save you like hours
Mm-hmm.
every single week, and that frees you up to do what you're actually good at.
Yeah.
Like the stuff that grows your business.
Or the important things.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of things that grow your business,
Mhm.
let's talk about cash flow.
Okay.
This is like
Oh,
the one that makes me a little nervous personally.
I get it.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm like the queen of impulse buys.
Uh-huh.
So the whole like managing money for a business is a little daunting,
Sure.
you know. But the book says it's crucial.
Oh, it is absolutely crucial.
Okay.
And even if you're like, raking in the cash,
Really?
it's still so important.
Okay.
This isn't just about like making money, it's
Mhm.
about managing it wisely.
Got it.
So the book lays out like 3
Okay.
super simple steps.
I like simple.
Me too. Okay, so first, track every single expense.
Every single one.
Seriously, like write it all down.
Okay. I can try to do that.
Okay, and then second, build that emergency fund.
Emergency fund.
Yes, because like unexpected costs.
Right.
They're a guarantee, not a possibility.
That's true.
And then finally, fight that urge to splurge.
Oh, no.
Especially when you're first starting out.
Yeah.
You've got to treat your business's finances like they're more important than your own personal, like, fun money.
More important than my fund money.
I know it's hard.
Wow. Okay. So
What's important?
you're saying that even if my business is making money, I could still be in trouble.
Exactly.
How does that work?
It's so easy to get caught up in the excitement of, like,
Yeah.
making money.
Like finally things are happening.
Right, and then you forget about, like, managing it properly.
Oh.
So imagine, like, a bakery, right?
Oh, a bakery.
That sells out every single day.
That's amazing.
It sounds successful, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But what if they're, like, overspending on ingredients?
Oh,
Or haven't planned for, like, equipment repairs?
right.
Suddenly they're in debt despite, like, booming sales.
Wow. So it's like more than just sales. It's about the whole picture.
Exactly. Cash flow is about sustainability.
Right.
Not just profit.
Sustainability. Okay. I like that. I'm going to write that down.
Good.
All right. So on to the final pitfall that the book talks about, waiting for everything to be perfect.
Oh, this is a big one.
Yeah. And I'm like a total perfectionist.
I feel that.
So this one like hits close to home for sure,
Uh-huh.
you know.
Yeah.
But the book puts it perfectly.
What's it say?
It says, perfection kills progress.
Yes. Love that.
So good, right? And it made me think about like the first iPhone.
Okay.
Like it didn't even have copy and paste,
Oh, wow.
but Apple like kept iterating,
Right.
making small improvements based on user feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And now look at them.
Yeah, they're doing okay.
So basically, don't be afraid to launch something that's not perfect.
No. You got to just put it out there.
I
You
mean-
can always tweak and improve as you go. It's like
Right.
baking a cake. You can't just keep adding ingredients forever.
That's such a good analogy because at some point you just got to put it in the oven and see how it turns out.
Exactly.
So to wrap things up, we've talked about 3 major pitfalls
Yes.
that can trip up new entrepreneurs trying to do everything alone, ignoring cash flow, and waiting for perfection.
And I think a good like takeaway question for everybody listening is
Oh, yeah.
which of these pitfalls do you think you're most susceptible to?
Mm.
Are you like a control freak, a spender, or a perfectionist?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Because knowing your weaknesses is the first step to overcoming them.
So true.
And entrepreneurship is all about like learning and adapting.
For sure.
And by like recognizing these pitfalls and putting this advice into action, you're setting yourself up for a much smoother, more successful journey.
I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time.
See, all right, so you want to sell online, become your own boss, right? Like work in your pajamas all day. Who doesn't? Today, we're going to deep dive into some excerpts from Manx by Design's website, specifically from their article, How to Sell Online and Make Money Doing What You Love. Yeah, that's a mouthful, but I love that last part, the doing what you love part. And I've got an expert here to help us pull out all those juicy bits of advice.
Well, what I noticed right off the bat was this whole focus on passive income.
Oh, yeah, passive income, that's the dream, right?
But hold on, before you think easy money, it's not about that at all. It's about setting up a system that works for you, that's generating income, even when you're not actively like slaving away. And the article really ties this to your passions. Like
Yeah.
what really gets you fired up? What could you talk about for hours and hours?
I mean, I could talk about this for hours. But yeah, so ditching the 9 to 5 grind, but not by just, jumping into another hustle.
Exactly. It's about building something that's sustainable. And the article's very upfront that this isn't some get-rich-quick scheme.
Which I appreciate, because if you're in a tough spot financially, needing immediate cash flow, this isn't it. But if you're playing the long game, that's where this approach gets really, really interesting.
Absolutely. This is about creating freedom and flexibility for yourself down the line, but it requires a solid understanding of the essentials. And they lay out 4 key components for any online business: website,
Okay.
payment gateway,
Got it.
hosting, and that all-important domain name.
Okay, break that down for me. A website, sure, we get it. It's your online storefront. But why are the other 3 so important? Why a payment gateway? Why hosting? Why even bother with a domain name? Can't people just like send you money directly?
Well, let's start with the domain name. It's not just an address. It's your brand's first impression. A strong domain name, one that people will remember, builds credibility and makes it easier for people to find you. Think of it like prime real estate, but for your online presence.
Makes sense. Okay, so what about hosting? Isn't that just like technical mumbo jumbo?
It is technical, but it's the foundation your website sits on. Reliable hosting ensures your website loads quickly and is always accessible. Slow loading times or like frequent downtime, that can kill your business before it even starts. Imagine someone's trying to buy your product, but the website keeps crashing.
Oh no. Frustration city.
Total frustration.
Okay, and the payment gateway, people can just send you money directly, right?
Sure they could, but that's not exactly professional or scalable. A payment gateway, it acts as like a secure intermediary. It processes transactions between you and your customers. And that layer of trust and security, that's crucial for any online business, especially if you're dealing with, sensitive customer data.
So it's about more than just getting paid. It's building trust, which makes total sense in the online world. Speaking of trust, the article mentions a resource for comparing payment gateways, which I think is genius. Finding the right fit for your business is key, and I bet that resource can help avoid some major headaches down the line.
Oh, definitely. It's not one size fits all. The right payment gateway will depend on your location, the types of products or services you're selling, even your average transaction volume.
And they even dive into specific examples later, like SumUp, and how it might be a good fit, especially for businesses just starting out. But we'll get to that later. For now, let's shift gears a bit. You know the saying, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Well, the article goes deep into how to actually make that a reality, turning your passion into profit.
Right. And they use the example of a cooking blog,
Okay, yeah.
which I think is a really good illustration. Say you're passionate about food, you love creating new recipes and sharing your culinary adventures. Why not monetize that?
That's such a good idea. I'm
Yeah.
already picturing it. Stunning food photography, those mouth-watering descriptions, maybe even some drool-worthy videos.
And it goes beyond just the content itself. You're building a community, you're connecting with people who share your passion. Think about engaging video tutorials, live streams where you interact with your audience, maybe even offer online cooking classes.
And all of that needs a home base, right? That's where the website becomes the hub for your online business. The article really stresses how important website content is, and not just any content that converts.
That's right. And it's not just about pretty pictures and witty captions. It's about strategically structuring your content to attract customers and guide them, towards making a purchase. Think clear product descriptions, compelling calls to action, and testimonials that build that trust factor.
And then there's SEO, search engine optimization. Oh, SEO, which can feel like this giant black hole of, technical jargon. But the article offers some guidance on that front as well, right?
Yeah, they do. It's like a crash course in making your website visible to the right people.
Yeah.
They even mentioned that Manx by Design offers services to help with this, which can be a lifesaver for people who aren't tech savvy or just don't have the time to delve into the intricacies of SEO.
Okay, let's be real for a second. Building an online business, even around something you love, it's still work. There's a learning curve, there are tech hurdles, and it can feel, honestly, overwhelming at times. And the article acknowledges that. They're not sugarcoating it, which I really appreciate.
And that's where they introduce their done-for-you option,
Yeah.
which I think is a brilliant solution for people who want to hit the ground running without getting bogged down in the technical stuff.
Right. Starting at £110 for a basic website or landing page with free payment gateway integration, that's a pretty good deal, especially for someone who's just eager to get started, get launched.
Yeah. It takes away a lot of those initial barriers to entry, allowing you to focus on what you do best, creating amazing products or services, and connecting with your target audience.
But hold on, even if you're like totally sold on this done-for-you option, or if you're brave enough to go the DIY route, there's still a big decision to make. What platform do you build your website on?
Oh, that's a great point. There are so many options out there, but the article highlights two popular ones, Wix and Shopify. And they each have their pros and cons, but the key is choosing the one that aligns with your business needs, your budget, your technical capabilities.
And before you jump headfirst into building your website, there's one thing you absolutely cannot forget: compatibility.
Oh, yeah.
Your payment gateway has to play nicely with your chosen platform, otherwise you're in for a world of hurt.
Absolutely. You don't want to invest all this time and effort into building your website only to realize your payment gateway isn't compatible. And this is where a solution like SumUp comes in.
Okay, there it is. Sum up. The article seemed pretty high on them, especially for folks who are just starting out. So what's so special about SumUp? Why is it so great for new businesses?
Well, SumUp is a payment processing company. It's known for being super user-friendly and affordable. And what's cool is that it integrates seamlessly with both Wix and Shopify. So you don't have to worry about those compatibility issues we were just talking about.
And they also throw in some extra goodies, right?
Yeah, they do. When you sign up with SumUp, you get a free online store and invoicing software. I mean, come on. Every penny counts when you're just starting out, right? These tools can help streamline your operations and free up your time so you can focus on growing your business. Plus, their transaction fees are very competitive.
So it's not just about taking payments, it's about supporting those new businesses, giving them the tools they need to succeed.
Exactly. It's like having a business partner in your corner, cheering you on and providing the resources you need.
I love that. Now, I know what everyone's thinking at this point. We're talking about selling online, doing what we love. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to one thing: the money. Can you actually make a decent living doing this?
Right, that's the million-dollar question. And the article doesn't shy away from it. It takes a very realistic approach to this whole income potential thing.
Which I appreciate. No pie-in-the-sky promises here.
Right. They emphasize that your earnings will depend on a number of factors: the industry you're in, the demand for your product or service, your pricing strategy, and of course, how much effort you put into marketing your business. You can't just assume you'll be rolling in dough overnight.
It's about, doing your research, assessing the viability of your idea and your target market before you get swept up in those dreams of fortune.
Absolutely. It's about setting realistic expectations and understanding that building a successful online business takes time, effort, and dedication. But here's the thing. Even if you don't become a millionaire overnight, there's immense value in creating something you're passionate about.
Yeah, it's about aligning your work with your values, having the freedom and flexibility to design your own lifestyle and potentially generating a good income, whether it's part-time or full-time.
Which brings us back to the whole doing what you love aspect.
Right.
It's not just a catchy tagline, it's the heart of this approach to building an online business.
I love that. And speaking of heart, let's talk about the people behind Max by Design. The creators of this very insightful article, they share their founder story, and it's really inspiring.
It is. A relocation, a background in healthcare, a totally unexpected business admin course, and eventually finding success in the online world. It shows you that our paths aren't always linear, and sometimes those unexpected detours lead us to our true calling.
And what's interesting is how they highlight the pandemic's impact on their business. They became like this essential resource for businesses that were struggling to adapt to the online world, providing technical support when everyone else was shutting down.
Talk about being in the right place at the right time. It shows their resilience, but also this deep commitment to helping others succeed. They saw a need, and they stepped up to fill it, which is incredibly admirable.
And it goes beyond just building websites. It's about building relationships and supporting their clients, every step of the way. They seem to have this personal touch that you don't always see in today's digital world.
Absolutely. They're not just selling a service, they're investing in their client's success.
And they even take it a step further by linking to a Shopify guide on all the different ways to make money online.
I love that. It's like they're saying, hey, we're here to help you succeed, even if it means sending you to resources outside of our own platform.
And the best part is no sign up required. This guide is a gold mine of information, whether you're launching a completely online business, expanding a physical store into the digital space, or just looking to add a few more income streams to what you're already doing.
It's a treasure trove of ideas and inspiration for anyone who wants to, leverage the power of the internet to generate income.
Seriously, it's a must-read for anyone who's serious about building a successful online presence. And we haven't even touched on the marketing aspect yet. Oh, right. You can have the most amazing website in the world, the best products, but if nobody knows about you, it's all for nothing.
Yeah, that's where marketing comes in. And the article doesn't shy away from this crucial element.
No, they don't. They even offer some really practical advice on promoting your business and connecting with your target audience.
And they specifically recommend Alex Harris Digital as the go-to marketing expert, especially highlighting his focus on the Isle of Man and his experience with big names like Booking.com.
Wow. Booking.com, that's huge.
Right. Having a seasoned marketing expert in your corner can make such a difference in reaching the right customers and achieving your business goals.
Absolutely. And it shows that Manx, by design, is committed to providing their clients with access to the best resources and support. It's not just about building a website, it's about creating a whole ecosystem of support to help their clients thrive. What really stood out to me throughout this whole article was the emphasis on doing what you love. It wasn't just a catchy phrase, it was woven into every single aspect of their approach to building an online business.
It's a powerful reminder that work doesn't have to be a soul-crushing grind. The online world offers amazing opportunities to create a business that reflects who you are, what you value.
Okay, let's take a step back for a second and recap what we've uncovered. We talked about the allure of passive income, but also emphasized that it's not about easy money. It's about building a sustainable system.
We broke down those 4 essential elements of any online business website: payment gateway, hosting, and domain name, and we discussed why each one is so crucial for success.
We explored that whole idea of turning your passion into profit, using that cooking blog example to illustrate how a hobby can become a thriving online business.
We talked about creating high-quality website content that actually converts, and how SEO can help attract the right customers.
We even touched on the convenience of that done-for-you option for those who want to launch quickly, as well as the importance of choosing a website platform that's, well, first of all, compatible with your payment gateway, but also aligned with your business needs.
And we delved into the benefits of SumUp, particularly for new businesses, highlighting its user-friendliness, affordability, and those great free tools like an online store and invoicing software.
We talked about the money question, the big one, emphasizing the importance of realistic expectations and understanding those factors that really influence your income potential.
And we celebrated the inspiring story of Manx by Design's founder, highlighting their dedication to client support and their passion for empowering others to succeed in the online world.
Wow, we covered a lot. What stands out to you the most? What's really clicking for you as you think about your own online business journey?
For me, it's that reminder that this is a marathon, not a sprint. Building a successful online business takes time, effort, a whole lot of passion.
Totally agree. And it's about, enjoying the journey with all the ups and downs and never losing sight of why you started in the first place.
And don't forget to never stop learning. The online world is constantly changing, so staying curious and adaptable is key.
Right. You've got to be willing to try new things, experiment, adjust your strategies as needed.
And never underestimate the power of community and support. Connecting with other entrepreneurs, seeking out mentors, learning from each other's experiences. That can make a world of difference.
Finding your tribe and lifting each other up along the way. Now, this might feel overwhelming, but remember, you don't have to do this alone. Resources like Manx by Design are out there to support you every step of the way. And they encourage you to reach out with any questions you have, no matter how big or small they are.
That really speaks to their commitment to their clients. They're not just selling websites, they're building relationships, and they're empowering entrepreneurs to thrive.
And they offer a whole range of services beyond website building, including SEO, marketing, technical support. They're like that one-stop shop for all your online business needs.
Yeah, it's all about finding the right partners and the right resources to help you navigate, this ever-changing landscape of online business. And Mangs by Design seems like a valuable resource for that, especially for those in the UK, Ireland, the Isle of Man, and the Channel Islands.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought. Think about what unique skills and passions and experiences you bring to the table. What product or service could you offer that combines those things in a way that only you can?
That's where the real magic happens.
Mm.
When you tap into your authentic self and share your gifts with the world, you create a business that's not only profitable, but also truly fulfilling.
It's about finding that sweet spot where your passion meets a need, a genuine need in the marketplace. And remember, the online world is constantly evolving, so there's always room for new ideas, for fresh perspectives.
So don't be afraid to dream big, to think outside the box, and to experiment until you find what works for you. There is no one-size-fits-all formula for success, and that's what makes this whole journey so exciting.
I love that. Okay, I think it's time to wrap up this part of our deep dive. But before we go,
Booking.com, they're a global company. For them to trust this guy, that says a lot about his expertise.
it does, yeah. And it shows that Manx by Design really cares about giving their clients the best resources, the best support they can find.
Okay, I think it's time to talk about the elephant in the room, money. Can you really make a living selling online, doing what you love, all that?
Yeah, and the article doesn't avoid that question at all. Actually, I really respect them for that. You see so many courses or whatever promising you'll get rich quickly, but Manx by Design, they keep it real. They're clear that your income depends on a lot of things, the industry, how much demand there is for what you're offering, your marketing. It's not some guaranteed path to being a millionaire. Yeah, which is nice to hear. No crazy promises. So it really comes down to having a good product, understanding who you're selling to, and putting in the work. But even if you don't want to be, super rich, building a business you actually enjoy, that's got to be worth something,
Well,
right?
totally. Think about it. You're the boss. You've got flexibility. You're in control. You can grow at your own pace. Even a little side income from doing something you love, that can be super rewarding.
Okay, let's switch gears for a sec. The article talks about the people behind Manx by Design, and their founder's story is pretty inspiring. I mean, moving, a background in healthcare, then a business admin course out of the blue. It wasn't some straight shot to success.
It's a good example of how life takes you in different directions. Sometimes you end up somewhere you never expected, and it turns out to be amazing. What I found really interesting was how they talked about the pandemic and how it impacted their business. They became so important for all these businesses that were trying to adapt to the whole online world, providing tech support when other places were closing down.
They were there when people needed them. It really shows they're not just about making websites. They want their clients to do well, to be successful. And I get this feeling of community from them, like they give personalized attention, which is really cool to see.
Right. It's not just a transaction. It's like they're invested in their client's success. And then on top of that, they link to this Shopify guide all about making money online. It's free. You don't even have to sign up for anything.
Oh, yeah, that guide is amazing. It's packed with useful info, whether you're starting totally from scratch, adding an online shop to your store, or you just want a few more ways to make money. I mean, who couldn't use a little extra cash, right?
They're really generous sharing resources like that. Even though it means people might go to a different platform, they clearly want to help people.
Yeah. It shows they care more about building a community than just promoting their own thing. Okay, we've talked about a lot. What's sticking with you? What are you thinking about as you consider your own online journey?
For me, the big takeaway is that this is a marathon, not a sprint. Building a successful business online, it takes time and effort, and you have to be passionate about it. There's no magic trick, but if you have the right help and resources, you can definitely do it.
I agree. And it's about balancing, those practical things like setting up your website, choosing the right tools, with staying connected to that passion that got you started. It's not just about making money, it's about making something you're proud of.
Right. And it's important to stay curious, keep learning, and adapt to changes online. What works for one person might not work for you, so you have to find your own way.
And never underestimate the power of community. Connect with other people who are doing this, find mentors, learn from each other's mistakes and successes. That can make a huge difference.
Oh yeah, for sure. Find your people, share what you know, and help each other grow. That's how amazing things happen. I know all this can seem a bit overwhelming, but remember, you don't have to do this alone. There are resources out there like Manx by Design. They want to support you every step of the way.
Yeah, that's what makes Manx by Design so great. They don't just build websites, they build relationships. And they offer that personalized support that can be so important, especially when you're just starting out.
Exactly. They want you to ask questions. And that kind of open communication builds trust and leads to success. It's like having a partner who's always in your corner, cheering you on.
Okay, before we finish up, I want to leave you with something to think about. What are you good at? What are you passionate about? What experiences do you have that nobody else does? And how can you use all of that to create a product or service that only you can offer?
That's what it's all about. When you're true to yourself and share your talents with the world, you build a business that's not just successful, it's fulfilling too.
Find that place where what you love and what people need come together. And remember, things are always changing online, so there's always room for new ideas, new ways of doing things.
Don't be afraid to dream big, to think differently, to try things out until you find what works for you. There's no one right way to be successful, and that's what makes it all so exciting.
I love that. Okay, I think it's time to wrap up this part of our deep dive. But before we go, if you're feeling that spark, that like, I could do this feeling, don't let it go. Check out Manx by Design's website, that Shopify guide we were talking about. Really start exploring. And don't worry, we'll link everything in the show notes. Easy peasy.
Yes, definitely. And, it's great to learn about all this stuff, but knowledge is only powerful if you actually use it. Take what we talked about today and start putting it into action. Take those first steps.
Don't let this be just another podcast you listen to and then forget about, right? Let this be that push you needed to actually make a move, even a small one.
And what's so cool about the online world is, there's no one right way to do things. Your journey is going to be totally unique, just like you. Embrace the challenges, enjoy those wins along the way, and never stop learning new things.
I love that. And hey, if you start feeling overwhelmed, remember what we learned about Manx by Design. They're not just some website builder, they're like a community, a support system.
Yeah.
They genuinely want you to reach out with questions, anything you're wondering about.
It's that personal touch that makes such a difference. Having someone there to guide you and support you, it can really boost your confidence and keep you going.
Okay, everyone, we've reached the end of our deep dive, but remember, this is just the beginning for you. Go out there, create something amazing, make your mark online, and most importantly, have fun doing it. Hey everyone, ready to dive into how to build a brand that truly packs a punch.
I'm excited.
We're talking brand identity today. What you need to know to stand out no matter what you're building. And get this, our roadmap is this awesome guide for entrepreneurs, fresh from 2024.
That's recent.
Super relevant, right? Like everyone knows it's a crazy competitive world out there, but that's actually a good thing because a killer brand, that's your secret weapon. It cuts through all the noise, makes you the go-to, the obvious choice. And here's the thing. It's way more than just a fancy logo.
Way more. It's the backbone, the core. A brand's identity. It's what makes people trust it, believe in it. These days, people aren't just buying a product,
I get you.
They're buying into the whole idea a brand represents.
Right. Like, think Apple. They're not selling just phones. It's that whole feeling like sleek innovation that it just works thing. Okay, so we get the big picture. But how do we, the not yet Apple giants, actually build that kind of power?
This guide nails it. You start with your mission, your vision, and your values. It's like, imagine building a skyscraper. Before the fancy stuff, you got to make sure that foundation is rock solid.
Okay, mission, vision, values. We hear these terms everywhere, but honestly, I bet even some people running their own businesses for years would struggle to explain them clearly. Let's break it down. What's the mission really at its core?
It's your why, the problem you're solving. Not just a fluffy feel-good statement. It's the gut check. What would the world actually be missing if your brand vanished tomorrow?
Whoa, okay, that hits harder than the usual way I hear it. So like if I were making, I don't know, handmade hiking boots, my mission wouldn't just be selling boots. It'd be about helping people connect with nature more deeply.
Exactly. That's the engine driving everything you do. And once you've got that why figured out, you got to look ahead, the vision. Where do you see your brand making an impact in the future?
So the vision is that big, ambitious dream, right? But it can't be just any dream. It has to flow naturally from that core mission somehow.
Exactly. Like our bootmaker, right? Their vision could be becoming the name in sustainable outdoor gear, inspiring a whole generation to explore consciously.
Okay, so vision gives them a direction to head in, guided by the mission. But how do they stay on track while they're growing, facing tough choices, all of that? Values, right? That's where those come in.
Values are your non-negotiables, your internal compass, especially when things get tricky. Imagine our bootmaker gets a deal, cheaper materials, way bigger profits, but it means compromising on their whole eco-friendly thing.
Oof, tough one. Their mission is about deep outdoor experiences. The vision is sustainable gear. Sounds like taking that deal would completely betray their values, even if it's tempting.
And that's the point. Values are what make you stand out. When everyone's just shouting about being the best, values show you walk the walk. They build trust.
All right, so we've got the foundation, vision, values. But a brand also needs to look the part, right? This is where it gets fun, the visuals. And what's more iconic than a great logo? What makes some logos stick in our minds while others just disappear?
This guy makes a brilliant point. A great logo isn't just about being eye-catching. It's got to be adaptable. It needs to work on a website, on social media, maybe even stitched onto those boots.
Yeah, the Nike swoosh, you see it anywhere, any so. So how do we ensure our logo isn't just trendy, but really captures the brand's essence? Any secret formula?
No magic formula, but there are key principles like understanding brand archetypes. What personality do you want to project? Are you rugged, sophisticated, rebellious?
Brand archetypes. Heard the term, never really dived in. So figure out our archetype, then our logo should visually match that, right?
Exactly. Our bootmaker, all about rugged exploration. Maybe strong lines in the logo, earthy colors, imagery that evokes adventure. But there's more. Color palettes, typography. It's like creating a whole visual language.
I love this part. It's not just slapping a logo on things, it's about every visual detail telling the same story. What are some common mistakes people make with this visual language? We've all seen brands that just feel off somehow.
One big mistake, trying to cram too much in. Color palettes that are all over the place, fonts that clash with the personality. Remember, simplicity and consistency, those are key.
So, like, our bootmaker wouldn't want neon pink and Comic Sans, no matter how trendy those might be. Got it. But a brand's more than just looks, right? It's got to have a voice. How do we find that unique sound?
You're taking us into brand voice territory, just like your visuals. It's got to be consistent and reflect like our identity. Are you friendly, witty, maybe a bit more formal and expert-like?
That's where it gets tricky, right? Like, our bootmaker might be super chill on social media, joking around with followers, but their website that needs a tone that inspires confidence shows off their craftsmanship.
Exactly. You keep the brand personality consistent, but you adjust your tone to fit the platform and context. Website copy, maybe more polished. Social media, more conversational.
Okay, starting to see how it all fits together. Mission, visuals, voice. But how do we actually bring the brand to life? Creating it's one thing, but getting people excited about it, that's another level.
And this guy is spot on. Engagement is key. You can't just exist. You got to interact, build relationships. Social media is the obvious starting point. How can our bootmakers stand out there?
It's got to go beyond just pretty pictures of boots, right? I've seen brands do those Ask Me Anything sessions or partner with actual hikers to share their adventures, showing the lifestyle, not just the product.
Exactly. You're showcasing personality, building a community around shared passions. But social media is just one piece. Then there's content marketing, providing real value, becoming the go-to source for your audience.
So instead of just yelling, buy our boots, our bootmaker could write blog posts about trail maintenance, videos on choosing the right fit, attracting people with helpful info, not just sales pitches.
Content can be blog posts, videos, infographics, even podcasts. The key is catering to your audience's interests, becoming that trusted voice they turn to.
Makes total sense, but gotta be honest, sometimes I feel like brands are just guessing at what their audience wants. How do we get real insights, not just assumptions?
Customer feedback. Encourage reviews, run surveys, pay attention to comments. It's market research, straight from the source. What are people loving? What's frustrating them?
So it's not just collecting data, it's actually acting on it, showing you're listening. Which brings us to the ultimate goal, brand loyalty. We've talked looks, voice, engagement, but how do we make people choose our brand over and over again?
That's the million-dollar question. There's no quick fix. It's about building genuine relationships over time. Exceptional customer service is huge. Every interaction reinforces your brand image.
Like, if you have a bad experience at a restaurant, even if the food's amazing, you might not go back. Good service makes a big difference. What else builds that gotta have it loyalty?
Consistency. If you're all about high quality, like our bootmaker, every single pair has to deliver on that promise. Inconsistency destroys trust. And never underestimate authenticity. People crave the real deal.
So our bootmaker can't suddenly start selling cheap flip-flops just because it's summer? That'd feel totally off-brand. Speaking of alignment, we've covered a lot today. Mission to loyalty. Wow. What's next? Where do we go from here?
Here's something to chew on. What's your unique value proposition? It's not enough to be good. You got to have that special something that makes you different. Keep asking yourself that question as you build.
I love that. It's a constant challenge, not a one-time answer. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into building strong brand identity. We've covered some awesome strategies, but the real work starts now applying this to your own brand. Stay tuned for part 2, where we go even deeper.
Picking up where we left off, brand loyalty. It's fascinating, right? It's not just getting someone to buy your product once.
Right.
It's creating a bond so strong that they choose you, even when there are other options out there.
Totally. It's that feeling when you find a brand that just gets you. You trust them, you believe in what they stand for. You're almost part of their journey, you know?
I know what you mean.
But how do you create that deep sense of trust, that loyalty? Sometimes it feels like magic. Can we break it down, make it actionable?
It all comes back to authenticity. We touched on it earlier, but it's so important. People can spot a fake a mile away. Especially these days when everyone's trying so hard to be on brand all the time.
Yeah, you can almost sense that desperation. When a brand's trying to be something, it's not. It's just inauthentic. But how do we translate that into something real, something we can actually build into our strategy?
It starts with aligning your actions with your words. Remember those values we talked about, those non-negotiables that guide your decisions.
Right.
Your actions have to reflect those values every step of the way.
So it's not enough to have a nice mission statement on your website.
Nope.
You got to live it every single day in every choice you make. Like that sustainable clothing company we mentioned. If they're all about being eco-conscious, but then, I don't know, they get caught using unethical labor practices, that hypocrisy totally destroys any trust they built.
Exactly. Authenticity means walking the walk, not just talking the talk. Being consistent in everything you do, from how you source materials to how you treat your employees.
So if our bootmaker is all about craftsmanship and quality, they can't cut corners just to save a buck. Every stitch, every little detail has to reflect that commitment to excellence.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And it goes beyond just the product itself, right? It's got to be every single touch point with the brand.
Absolutely. Your website, your social media, how you handle customer service, even the packaging your products come in, every single detail feeds into how people see your brand.
Okay, so let's say you're a high-end coffee brand. You want to project that image of sophistication, sustainability. Your website, maybe it's got these stunning photos of coffee farms, sleek packaging designs, even some content about like the art of brewing coffee.
And then someone walks into your cafe, they're greeted by baristas who really know their stuff, can talk about different roasts, brewing methods, the smell of fresh coffee beans everywhere, maybe some smooth jazz playing in the background.
I'm getting the vibe. It's like you're creating the whole experience. It's not just selling a cup of coffee. It's selling a feeling, a lifestyle.
And that feeling, that lifestyle, it has to be genuine. You have to truly believe in what you're offering because that passion, that authenticity, it's contagious. It draws people in, makes them want to be part of your world.
Totally. But before we go too far creating these amazing experiences, we got to make sure we're actually creating something people want, right? How do we get inside our target audience's heads and understand what they're looking for?
That's where good old market research comes in. And it's not just basic demographics, age, gender, location. It's understanding your audience's values, their lifestyles, what they aspire to.
It's like, what are they passionate about? What problems are they trying to solve? What keeps them up at night? What makes them happy?
Exactly. The better you understand your audience, the better you can create a brand that really connects with them. And one of the most powerful ways to create that connection is through storytelling.
Ooh, I love a good story. Tell me more.
Every brand has a story to tell. Think about your origin story. What inspired you to start this business? What challenges did you face? What values are at the heart of your mission?
It's like giving your brand a personality, a voice that people can actually connect with.
Precisely. And stories make information stick. Think about those iconic brands. Nike, their story is about empowering athletes. Patagonia, it's about protecting the environment.
It's more than just marketing. It's woven into who they are. Gives people a reason to believe, a reason to care. But how do we find our story? Some brands have these epic, world-changing narratives. Others feel more, everyday.
You don't need some groundbreaking save-the-world story to be compelling. Sometimes the most powerful stories are the simplest ones. the ones that come from genuine passion.
So, for our bootmaker, maybe the story is about their grandfather, who was a cobbler, and how they were inspired by his dedication to craftsmanship. Or maybe it's about their own journey, discovering how powerful it is to spend time in nature.
There you go. It's finding what makes you unique and sharing it in a way that resonates.
Finding the heart of your brand and letting it shine through. But how do we make sure our story is heard? In a world that's already overflowing with content, it's easy to get lost in the noise.
That's the challenge. But again, it comes back to understanding your audience, choosing the right ways to reach them.
So, if our bootmaker's audience is mainly on Instagram, they might focus on visual stories, reels, showcasing their style, their craftsmanship. But if they're more into long form stuff, maybe they start a blog or even a podcast.
Exactly. It's being strategic, intentional, and creative, finding ways to stand out, grab attention.
So maybe they make a video series where they visit different national parks, talk about the trails, the history, or partner with an influencer who embodies their values like adventure and sustainability.
The goal is to be memorable, to make content people will want to share, talk about.
It's not just broadcasting your message, it's sparking conversations, building connections.
You got it. It's creating a buzz, generating excitement. Think about Apple, the way they build anticipation before a new product. Little teasers, just enough info to get people curious.
Yeah. By the time the product's actually out, people are lining up to get it.
Exactly. That's the power of a strong brand. It's like creating a movement, a community of people who believe in what you believe in.
And it's a journey that never really ends, right? A brand has to keep evolving, adapting to its audience, to how the market changes.
Absolutely. The world of branding is always shifting. What works today might not work tomorrow. You got to stay curious, stay informed, and stay connected to your people.
Like a dance almost. You're constantly adapting, responding, finding that rhythm together.
I like that. And just like in a dance, there's a certain amount of trust involved. You have to let go of control a bit, embrace the unexpected, be open to feedback, to change.
So it's not about being perfect, it's about being authentic, adaptable, and willing to learn and grow.
That's where the magic happens. When you're open to evolving, you create a brand that's not just resilient, but truly captivating.
This has been so insightful. We've gone from the core values to the art of storytelling, but we've just scratched the surface of this whole world of branding. I'm feeling pumped, ready to tackle building a brand that truly stands out. But before we wrap up part 2, any final words of wisdom for our listeners? What's the one thing they should keep in mind on their brand building adventures?
Remember, it's not about following a formula or copying someone else. It's about finding your own voice, expressing it authentically, connecting with your audience, building a community around shared values and passions.
Love it. Be brave enough to be yourself even when the world's telling you to be someone else. What a powerful message. We'll be back for part 3, where we'll dive even deeper into what makes a brand truly unforgettable. It's funny, as we've been talking about all this, building these strong brands, being authentic, it kind of makes me think about our own personal journeys, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
It's like we're all trying to figure out our own personal brand in a way.
I love that parallel because in a world where we're constantly bombarded with messages about who we should be, how we should live,
Right.
it's so easy to lose sight of our true selves.
Totally. Like you're scrolling through social media, seeing everyone's perfectly curated lives. It makes you compare yourself, feel like you're not enough. But just like a brand needs to stand out, we got to embrace what makes us unique. So how do we do that? How do we tune out the noise and reconnect with like our own brand essences?
It starts with self-awareness, taking the time to really think about our values, passions, what we're good at, what we struggle with, asking those big questions
What are those questions?
like, what do I truly care about? What brings me joy? What kind of impact do I want to have on the world?
It's that classic advice, right? Know thyself. But it's not just surface stuff. It's about understanding what really drives us, motivates us.
Exactly. It's about figuring out our core values, those principles that guide our decisions, how we interact with the world. Just like a brand has to be clear about its values, we do too.
Because when you're living in line with those values, everything feels right somehow.
I agree.
There's that sense of purpose, authenticity, being true to yourself.
And, just like a strong brand attracts loyal customers, an authentic person attracts genuine connections. When you're being yourself, no masks or pretending, you give other people permission to do the same.
Yeah, it's that magnetic energy. When you meet someone who's totally comfortable with who they are, you're just drawn to them. But being our true selves, it's not always easy, especially with all the pressure to fit in. How do we stay grounded, resist putting on that fake persona?
Takes courage. Being okay with not being liked by everyone, standing out, embracing those imperfections, and surrounding yourself with people who support that, who encourage you to be you.
Finding your tribe, people who love your quirks and push you to be your best self. This whole conversation has been such a good reminder that these branding ideas, they're not just for businesses.
I was thinking the same thing.
It's for all of us figuring out how to navigate the world.
Totally. Whether you're building a brand or building a life, it comes down to those core things: authenticity, connection, creating something that truly resonates.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive into branding. We've covered the strategies, the psychology, even how it connects to our own lives. Hopefully, you've all picked up some valuable insights, the things you can use to build your own brand and even just navigate your own journey. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about being genuine, being brave, and embracing the process of becoming the best version of yourself, both as a brand and as a person. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, keep creating, keep connecting, and keep shining.